Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome out to tonight's coaching call. Thanks for joining us. For most of you on there just looking through, I can see mostly past students we've had. We may have a few of you here that are new, but a lot of you have been with us before. So thank you for either participating live here or for any of you that catch it on the replay. Either way, we appreciate your time.
Yeah, definitely. We appreciate having you guys, participating, and we try to put some thought into these, and so we definitely appreciate you guys making the time to either listen to us live or catch the replay.
Yeah, and the topic we're going to be talking about, today is we want to talk about, how we're setting bids on land, and also, really we'd like to do a little bit to talk just a little bit about the progression of purchases in a way.
Yeah, definitely. Before we get started, we don't have a ton of news. We've had some students that have sold property recently, and if you have sold property, or even if you purchased property, we'd love to know about it. You can click on that form next to the coaching center and send us in some information about it. We'd love to know about any deals that you purchased, any properties you bought, or any properties you sold.
Yeah, well, and we'd love to recognize what you've done. I
Absolutely.
think it motivates other people to see it, and it's good for you to do as well, because I think it's good to get recognized for it.
Yeah, get a pat on the back for it. I mean, you put in the work, and either buying a property or selling a property is in our view a success, and so we want to acknowledge you for that.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about setting maximum bids. And the reason why we want to talk about this is because there are a whole bunch of auctions that are about to come up, and so there are lots of auctions you can participate in here over the next really between now and the fall.
Yeah, like we've talked about that before, the pandemic and everything that's happened kind of held back a lot of these properties, and so now we're finally getting counties that are setting their auctions, and we're going to be able to getting new over-the-counter properties. And really, over these next 6 months or so, there's going to be a ton of opportunity. And really, we recommend every single one of our coaching students, at least if they have the capital, to register for at least an online auction a month, because you're not going to be able to buy any properties unless you take opportunity, and the only way we can take opportunity is by getting registered for some of these sales.
Yeah, it's true that there may have been a day years and years ago, maybe decades ago, when counties had enough over-the-counter inventory, that you could kind of go and pick, but a lot of that's been kind of taken over by land banks, and then the over-the-counter lists that are there get harder to work. The majority of the really good properties are going to be sold at auctions, and Steve's right in that the only way you're ever going to acquire properties is if you give yourself that opportunity by getting registered for the sale and bidding.
Yeah, well, and also when we are talking about over-the-counter property, there will be the one thing I love about auctions, and in fact, I always love an on-site auction, because that means there's going to be limited competition. If they do offer over-the-counter in that area, there'll be a better chance to have over-the-counter. So as these sales happen, we're going to be looking at online auctions that are taking place. Obviously, we recommend, if any of you guys live within driving distance to an on-site auction that you can attend, that there's inventory worth going for, we always recommend, because that's going to give you a chance where not everyone's bidding on it. But then in addition to that, there's going to be the over-the-counter property. Kind of a good example is Arkansas. Arkansas is going to have their on-site auctions, and they're going to sell a ton of property, and there's opportunity to send in bids and participate in some of that, even if you aren't going to the live on-site auction. But once that auction's over, they're going to be putting all that new over-the-counter inventory on their online auction format, and that'll give us a chance to start buying some of those new 2022 properties that just got offered but didn't sell at the auction.
Yeah, the Arkansas inventory is probably at I think it's going to rebuild, is what's going to happen. It'd be interesting to see how many properties, if they're selling as many with the auction service now.
Well, I know, one of our coaching students just purchased another one this week off of the online auction, and they're buying properties there for under $1,000.
Yeah.
So there's opportunity to get a couple of those, and we'll talk about them here, class 1 deals, these wholesale deals that we can pick up that are worth under, 10 grand on average, worth between 5 to 12 grand or so, but have opportunity to pick them up at a low enough price.
Yeah.
So the first thing we want to talk about, and we're not going to spend a lot of time, but obviously as we're looking through the property, we're going to research the land before we even determine the value and determine how much we're going to pay for it to make sure it's a property that we're going to use and that has use and value.
Yeah, I think, the main things we're looking for there are the same things we're always looking for, that the lot is a usable, buildable size. And the main ways that we can determine that are usually based on its size in relation to other lots around it and what we see in those areas. But we can find out directly there on the website sometimes. But we want to make sure the lot's usable, so that, in other words, it has enough, meets the minimum square footage requirements for building in the area, and that it's that it also is accessible from public roads.
Yeah, and a good general rule about finding out that information, for example, how big does a lot need to be able to build a single family home? If it's located within the city, we're going to be contacting the city because the city is most likely going to be determining the zoning for the city. If it's outside the city and the county, we'll be contacting the county to find out. But it's usually a pretty easy. A lot of times the cities will have that information on their website, because instead of having people call, they're going to have some of that bulletin point. Okay, here is what you need to be a buildable lot. Here's any of the forms. So we'll contact the city, and in worst case scenario, we can send an email or give them a quick call. And that's generally a pretty easy answer that they can give us.
Yeah. So, once we find properties that we think, that look like they have the potential there, at least they look like they have use, the next thing we need to determine is the value of the property. And the way we're really going to determine the value, there's a couple of ways. Obviously, we can see in the county's assessed value, but obviously that only tells us so much. Really, to get a more accurate idea of exactly what's going on in the market, we need to start looking at comps in the area to get a feel for the real estate market and what the actual value is based on other properties that are for sale.
Yeah, the assessed value is just going to show us that there's some type of value in the property. That's where we're really going to dig into our current competition, the properties that are currently for sale that are similar to it. We'll also look into some of the sold properties. When we're talking about researching homes, it can make a lot bigger difference in really looking and figuring out your comparative market analysis, because you can find, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home that's very similar. When it comes to land could be a little bit different. So we may determine it by square foot. For example, if we have a lot in our area and there's a 1-acre lot that's worth 10 grand, and ours is exactly in the same area, but it's half-acre lot is worth 10 grand and ours is an acre lot, we know that, well, if they're listing this at 10 grand, ours is twice the size, dollar per square foot it could be worth around 20 grand.
Yeah. And we could probably almost do it if it was half the size too. If we see one example on there that's,
as long as it's usable,
yeah,
the same type of property.
Yeah, it's kind of one of the advantages of land is that we don't have the same potential for picking, I guess picking out comps that are favorable to us. With land, comps just generally are what they are as long as they're in the same area and they're zoned in the same
Well,
way.
and in some areas, you're going to find a lot of different, comparable properties. In maybe more rural or smaller counties, you're going to find less. But once we've really determined what that property value is, then we can determine, what our high bid, how much we're willing to pay for this property.
Yeah. Now, how much we're willing to pay really depends on a number of different factors. We've mentioned before that, the more valuable a property is, oftentimes the higher percentage we might be willing to pay for it. But that's also true of all properties here. In fact, let's take a look here of how we look at it.
Yeah, in fact, to kind of give you guys an example, the way I was classifying these is me and Shade like to do river running. I've been doing river running, whitewater rafting since we were a kid. We have a boat that we'll take down and go down rivers. But the way that you judge a rapid is essentially a scale. Class 1 being the easiest, class 5. There's actually a class 6 as well, but class 6 is kind of that one that nobody goes down.
Undoable.
Yeah. So we're going to kind of look at the first 5 classes, and we're going to kind of compare it a little bit to the same with real estate, where starting in class 1, that's going to be small waves, ripples, fairly safe. You know, as you move into class 2, class 3, it's going to be a little bit more aggressive, take a little bit more experience as you move your way through the classes and become more of an expert.
Yeah, really, we can do the same thing with properties, in classing them, because really it helps us in a couple of different ways. But one of the things that we're meant to do here is, when you start buying tax sale properties, you may be purchasing everything in a class 1, pay scale, but that's not the intention. That's not what you should always be doing. In other words, as you're building up your capital and your confidence, you can buy more valuable properties, that have greater potential there. You don't have to stick with just, the
No, in fact, we want every single one of our students to start going down this list, to go from class 1 to class 2 to class 3, because you get into those higher classes, you're going to be able to make larger sums of money and do less deals, which ultimately is going to give you more time, more capital. And so instead of doing deals where you're making 5 or 10 grand on, you're doing deals where you're making 50 or 100 grand on.
Yeah, exactly. In other words, if you're going to be doing some of these smaller deals, obviously, the downside of these is that you're going to put some time into them, but there's a limited profit, return, for the amount of time. You're probably going to have a similar amount of time into deals that are more valuable and are more profitable.
Yeah, exactly. Here's an example of class 1 property, and these are properties that range in value between $1,000 to $10,000. So we're talking about a lot of our wholesale properties, a lot of building lots. Usually there could be larger pieces of land within this, but generally they tend to be, smaller size. You're not going to find your 10 acres, usually valued at around 10 grand unless it's really kind of out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, so these are almost always deals, that get done with quick claim deeds, wholesale transactions here, where we're selling the property at a discount because we're not pursuing quiet title. We're going to sell it as is, so we'll discount the price of the property, significantly.
Yeah, now generally we try to buy these properties around 10 cents on the dollar. So when you hear us talk around 10 cents on the dollar, that's kind of what we're looking at. Depending on the property value, we may be willing to go up to 15 cents, but we're going to go up to that 15 cents on the higher end, on the $10,000. Maybe if we found a $10,000 lot that was in a great area, had value, we could think of sell it quickly, then it could make sense to pay $1,500 for it. Because even if you sold it for 5 or 6 grand, half of its value, you could still make 4 or 5 grand on
it. Yeah, but the risk we run into in paying any more than that is that we are, we've got to sell the property for quite a bit, in order to be profitable, and it's harder to find buyers, with a higher price, less overall profitability. We want to limit how much we pay in terms of a percentage of value with class 1 properties. We've got to be really careful with it because it's easy to overpay. If you pay 25, 30%, you may not necessarily lose money, but you're not going to be making a lot of money.
Yeah, we want you to make, hundreds of percent returns versus just, if you were to pick it up for 1,500 and sell it for 3 grand, yeah, you made 100% return, but we want you to make bigger returns on that, especially when we're talking about these lower end deals.
Yeah.
On a bigger end deal, making 100 or 200% return could be huge because that could end up being $50,000 or $100,000.
Yeah.
But on one of these smaller deals, it's going to be smaller. Now with the class 2, these are kind of where we're getting into the properties where we could possibly do quiet title, depending on the property, valued at anywhere between 10 to 20 grand.
Yeah, and if we pursue quiet title here, we need to keep in mind that it's going to cost us, at least a few $1,000s here. It's something that we would need to look into, before we went and did it. But we can pay a little bit more for these properties because we can take them through quiet title. So in other words, if we have a property here that is valued at, at $19,000, and let's say that we can pick it up for, let's say on the high end of that, it's 20%. So $1,800. No, wait, my math was off here. Let's see, 20% here, if we were selling for $19,000, would be about $4,000.
Yeah.
Roughly would be the buying price on it. If it was valued.
That's kind of what I was thinking about when I was looking at it. If you went up to $4,000 on a $20,000 lot, say you put $2,000 into quiet title.
Mhm.
You could still make 14 grand on that deal. And one thing we need to realize is that some of these real estate investors that are doing full rehabs are trying to make 10 grand,
Yeah.
10 to 15 grand. So if we can make, this is going to take very little work. I mean, this could be an example right here. All of these were picked up at deed sales in New York last year.
Yeah.
Ones that we'd actually went over before they were purchased in the coaching
Yeah.
call.
The majority of them are probably valued between 10 and 20,000,
Yeah,
or even higher.
This one was picked up for $13.50, had a value of $15,000. It was picked up for around 10 cents on the dollar. With this particular property, let's say you were to put another 2 grand into quiet titling it, and you could sell it for that 15, it could make sense.
Yeah.
But it could also make sense to dropping it to sell it for 7 grand and get rid of it quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. We kind of have the option with these properties to go either way on it. So, if we find a buyer at wholesale, then we can make that deal work. But again, it's about how much money we're leaving on the table. But 20% is about the maximum we want to pay. Now we get into class 3, and we're talking about properties that are valued between 20 to 50,000. And the profit potential with these properties goes up quite a bit, and therefore, what we can pay, our bid to value goes up as well. So we can pay, 15 to 35%, let's say for some of these properties. You can pay, roughly a third of value for some of these properties and still be profitable because the value's there.
Yeah, and when we're paying 35% of the value, we want to be up at the higher end of the property. Closer to the 50,000 versus the 20,000.
Yeah.
And here's another example, picked up for $6,700, had a value of around 3 grand. There's profitability in there. There's money you could go through quiet title. Most likely you would go through quiet title, but there could still be an opportunity in these type of deals to sell them quickly and wholesale them as well.
Yeah,
but
you can still send out neighbor letters,
Yeah.
and see if one of the neighbors, would like to buy. Because again, if you have a neighbor, one of the advantages of doing that is it's a really easy way to find buyers, and it will save you most likely the hassle of going through quiet title.
Well, and in this kind of situation, you can say, hey, I just picked up this property. I'm thinking of actually, you could almost kind of explain to them, I'm going to take it through quiet title. I'm thinking about doing this, but before I do that and sell it for full value, I wanted to see if you'd be interested in. I picked it up for $6,700. I'll sell it to you for 16 grand or 17 grand. You make a quick 10 grand on it. And the new buyer's willing to buy it. They already explained how you've gotten the property through your letter. So they know because it's a tax foreclosure property, I could get quiet title if I want it, but I can buy it now for a discount.
Yeah, which if they do buy it, we might be giving up profit, but we're also getting the deal done a lot faster. So we're not going to have to wait through the months of quiet title or the costs associated with that. There are benefits to being able to do that deal faster. But as you can kind of see, as the value goes up, the percentage we can pay increases, because the numbers still make sense. So class 4 properties are $50,000 to $100,000. And with class 4 properties, most likely we'll end up paying somewhere between 20 and 40% for properties like this because the profitability is there.
Well, and that's where, let's say I always talk about the $100,000 home and the $100,000 piece of land. Well, paying that $40,000 for a $100,000 piece of land, we have all of that additional rehab unknown.
Yeah. When we're buying a house, in other words, there's
exactly
all sorts of unknowns that are potential risks, and all of it's a potential risk when it comes to the improvements because all of it's going to require investment in order to repair it.
Exactly. So if we're looking at this particular property here, we can see it's a big building lot. In fact, it looks like you could almost subdivide it. But if we were to pick this up for $27,000, it would make sense to go ahead and go through the quiet title process, even if we had to pay 5 grand and we were into it 35,000. With the potential profit of being around 100 grand, we have a chance to make $70,000, $75,000 on the deal, and that's after paying 5 grand in quiet title and attorney fees.
Yeah.
Which would be on the high end. So
in fact, with these types of properties, if you can pick these properties up for closer to 20% of value, it's going to be a humongous deal. But even if you pay, even if you paid $40,000 for this property, and you had to pay another $5,000 to go through quiet title, so you're into it for $45,000. there's still going to be a lot of profitability with it.
Yeah.
It's still highly profitable, deal where you're going to be making. Let's see, if you put 40,000 into it, really you'd be making nearly a 200% return.
Yeah, well, and when we're looking at these kind of properties, I mean, when we talk about the 10% on the dollar, it's pretty rare you're going to be able to get these type of properties for 10 cents on the dollar.
Yeah, almost never with these. The bidding might open up at 10 cents on the dollar if
if it has good use and value, it's going to get bid up higher than that. So we got to expect to pay higher than that. It's just going to be the cost of it. But still, we have more profit margin within doing these bigger type of land deals with less risk. We're not going to have to worry about getting set up. In fact, we're going to kind of go through and create a class 5 system with homes as well, to kind of give you guys a percentage of what we're willing to go on homes. But, in this type of property, this is really where I would like between class 3 to class 5, I would love to get a lot of our students to.
Yeah.
Where they've gone through class 1, class 2 type properties. They're getting into the properties that are going to take more capital, but in some ways they're going to take less time, because once you purchase the property, you're going to go ahead and go through quiet title. You're not going to do a whole lot during that period. The attorney, then once it's ready to list, you can go ahead and list it for sale. You could sell it with an agent. There's plenty of profit in there where you could take all of the work out of your hands and still make an awesome return.
Yeah, well, and you've got warranty deeds, so selling it is easy. Because again, you don't have any kind of title complications. You're not trying to wholesale this. Once you go through that, you can sell it just like any other property. You can have somebody else sell it if you want. And the difference between you and most other sellers is that you are only into your property for 20 or 30% or 40%, whereas most people that are trying to sell theirs are completely into theirs. They're into theirs 100%.
Right. With class 5, these are any properties that are worth over $100,000. And as far as the bid to value ratio, really we could go 3 to 60%. Now 60% would be on a really expensive property. Let's say we found a $1 million piece of land. It could make sense in that period to pay $600,000. Now usually we wouldn't want to, but there could be that type of profit. You could still have an incredibly profitable deal on the higher end of it.
Yeah. Yeah,
but if you can get it for 30 or 35 or 40 cents on the dollar, you can really hit a home run in these type of properties.
Yeah, the more valuable the property is, the more profit there is, the higher your potential percentage can be as well. Also, the more valuable it is, the harder it is to get it for dirt cheap. Just because there is so much potential profit on it, but paying 30% for a property like this could oftentimes win you the property, at auction, or 40%, could win this property at auction, whereas a similarly priced home is probably going to be selling for double that.
Yeah, definitely going to be more competition. And there's all different types of land. I mean, we can see this example here is 75 acres. We can see it has road access. There's a couple of lakes. Where that last lot that we were looking at was a little bit more of a traditional building lot. It was large. It was kind of like a triple lot, maybe, but it was more of a traditional building lot, where this is a larger type of piece of property. So there's all different types of property within there. We're really looking at the value, and how much can we pay for it.
Well, and when you start to pick up properties like these, this is also where you could get, the property's large enough that if there's an opportunity to subdivide, that's something that you can start to look into, on properties if you want to start looking at developing them.
Yeah, in fact, go back quickly to that last property. This property here would be a great property to subdivide. You could easily subdivide that into 3 or 4 maybe lots.
Yeah.
And then instead of selling, the entire property, it's going to take a step. You're going to, probably, if you're out of state, would probably hire an attorney to take it through, and it may cost a little bit of money. But let's say you put in an extra $3,000 in attorney costs to have it subdivided. Well, now, that extra $3,000 might make you an extra 30.
Yeah. Well, now you've got 3 separate lots, that you can sell, or, in another area, you might have a whole bunch of different lots that you can sell, or, it's basically a way that you can potentially increase the value of some properties. And some properties, it's not going to make sense. It's better off just selling it, as it is. But in some cases, though, if you can see that that the property, I guess when we're looking for properties that would be subdividable, we're kind of looking at the areas around them and looking at the property use and trying to see what we think could potentially be, it could be used for.
Well, and even if we don't do it ourselves, we can market it, as we're selling the property, this could be a good property to subdivide. I mean, the potential buyer may buy it for exactly that reason.
Yeah. So anyhow, on the higher value properties too, there are a lot of these, that we see come up in tax sales too. In fact, you're much more likely to see a property like this come up in a tax sale than you are a similarly priced home.
I still think the very best deal I've seen at a tax sale, there's been awesome deals that have been picked up for cheap, but an expensive deal was when we were in Tulsa, and there was that 5 acres of prime property in downtown Tulsa that ended up selling for $600,000 or $700,000 because there was 2 actual lots in it, and they ended up buying both of them, but had a value of over $4 million.
Yeah, it had an assessed value of over $4 million. The market was probably even beyond that. It was an impressive value there. Definitely. That would be something kind of like a class 6 type of a deal there. Where you might be into it over $500,000, but on that time,
potential to make millions.
Yeah. In fact, on that deal, with them paying, they paid. You could say they paid about $700,000. Maybe when it was all said and done with both properties. But the value of the property was probably closer to $5 million. And so, they probably got it too for under 20%.
Yeah. Well, let's say they even got it for 25 cents on the dollar. Compared to other properties at that auction, we saw homes selling for 100% of value.
Yeah, it's true.
Especially the first part of it. So, there is an opportunity out there, and we want each one of you guys to start progressing. Maybe you kind of figure out the class 3 and 4 properties, properties valued between 30 to 100 is what you like, but we definitely want to get you past the selling as is and start, going through that quiet title process as well.
Yeah, really, it's kind of the, between class, between class 2 and class 3 properties, so the properties that are valued, over 10,000 up to about 50,000, there is a huge market there. There's lots of these properties. We may not see tons and tons of the higher end properties, at the sales. They come up a little bit more rarely, but we see quite a few. We always see properties in in the ranges here between class 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah, exactly.
So. Let's go here.
Really, once we've determined the high bid, then we're just going to bid on it. Now, one point I wanted to make is if you set your high bid right, expect to lose some property to other bidders because you have priced it aggressively and right, where, if you've won every property that you've gotten, you're probably overpaying.
Yeah, you're going to lose a lot of properties in auctions. And that goes for live or online auctions. It's just a regular thing to happen. As long as you've set your percentages right, you just have to be willing to be okay with, with walking away.
Well, and we'd rather walk away every time and lose a property than overpay. I'm going to feel like even though it can be disappointing, it can be frustrating, I'm going to feel at least successful in the fact that I was able to walk away from a property versus overpaying it and putting a bunch, even if we didn't lose money, but we had to put a ton of time into this property to come out making nothing,
Yeah, that's a loss.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah, exactly. And so, we'd rather move on the next property, the next auction. And that's the one thing about tax sales is there's always going to be another auction. And when we are looking and doing research on land, we don't have to put the same amount of time into it as we would on a structured property.
Yeah.
We may not even have to have somebody go out to view the property, even on more expensive type land properties.
Yeah, we ought to go and take a look at examples of some of these and kind of classify them, in how we would, with some of this time we have. So yeah, in fact, we were talking a little bit about Thank you. We were talking about Arkansas a little bit earlier here, and you know, their auction system. Well, they also have sales that are starting up here pretty fast. You know, they have some of the earliest sales. Pull up their public auction catalog. So March 1st is when these sales start. They start. Holy cow, that's crazy! It starts in just 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Only 2 weeks away from now is when these sales start. Now these are all going to be live sales, that will be held there in person. Although we know we can do mail-in bids.
Yeah.
So we can do mail-in bids if we find a property there that we're interested in and we want to go after. But yeah, these all start in just 2 weeks, and the inventory in the auctions is way better than anything you ever find in the over-the-counter list. So
well, and as we go through and look at the past results, at least last year, there was quite a few properties that had close to opening bids, maybe a few bids, but selling for, pretty good property values. I mean, pretty good prices compared. And that's where I think, we really can win some property by sending in our high bid. Now, we may be a little bit more aggressive in our high bid where, we may go up depending on the type of property where we're going above the minimum bid, if it makes sense. I mean, if the minimum bid is, $600 and we're looking at a $15,000 building lot, well, it could make sense to put in a $1,000 bid, or even a $1,200 bid, or maybe even a $1,500 bid, because we're still going to get it for 10 cents on the dollar at that price.
I'm just looking to see what they do have for sale. That one's landlocked. But
too bad it isn't. It looks kind of like a nice property.
Yeah, it is. It is nice. It's a full acre of property there, and it backs up to the creek. Right there. It's nice. Yeah, nearly accessible from this road here, but not quite. I'm just gonna look to see if we can see if we can find any land here that jumps out at us. So here's one. This is actually relatively inexpensive, 12,000. So what we'd want to probably do here, this is 4.35 acres. Let's see what it looks like. Get an idea of what the actual value of this property is. Oh, thank you, Jeffrey, for sending that in here, actually letting us know here, reminding us that the bids, if we're going to send in bids by mail, they've got to be in 7 days prior to the published date, of the sale. So, in other words, you need to have these in, mail-in bids need to be received, 7 days before the auction starts. They also, when you send in your bid, you can basically do the first $100 of it. It has to be some kind of a money order,
yes, certified funds,
and then you can do a personal check with the rest of it.
That actually makes it kind of nice, where you don't have to send in the full money order for the full amount.
Yeah.
So that, I think that is an advantage where, they might not even cash those checks unless your property gets purchased. I'd have to read into it. I can't remember from reading it last year, but, definitely an opportunity there. And this would be a nice property. It looks like it has use. Let's see if we can get a street view of it.
Yeah, let's see.
One thing you can do on these is you can see that little guy over in the right-hand corner. If it does have a street view, you can click it down there and we can see what it is.
I think it's going to be, just some of this property right here. It's a little bit elevated. It doesn't look like, there's a little bit of a hill there. I'm pretty sure it's the property on the left-hand side. What we'd want to know though is it's roughly 4.3 acres. Let's see what did it open up at? $769. So let's estimate the value here. So they're saying 12,400. If we found that it was worth 15,000, it's probably going to fall into that second category there, where we're going to pay between what about 15
10
cents?
to 20, 10 to 20 cents on the dollar, depending on how high we were willing to go up to.
Yeah.
So most likely would be around 10 to 15 cents on the dollar on this property, probably.
Yeah. So we determine this property is valued at, let's say that it's valued at 13,000. Then we could pretty much say at 13,000, we could do a bid up to, between 10 and 20%. So we maybe between 1,300 would be, to, maybe on the high end, 20% on that would be.
Well, and if it's a 13,000, I probably wouldn't go up to 20,
Yeah.
I would probably stay lower to 15, I would only go up to 20% on the 20,000 if it was closer to the 20.
Yeah, it's true. I think.
So if we found out that the property was valued at closer to 20, we can see comparables that are 20 to 30 grand. Then I'd say, okay, let's say the value is 20, then I'd be willing to go maybe a little bit higher on it, versus being worth 13.
Yeah. In other words, with it opening up at 769, what that really means is we could probably bid it up. You could bid it up to 1,500 or so and go a little bit above that. But if we go much beyond that, it's going to probably go.
I think if you were to do a between $1,250 to $1,500 bid on that, I think you'd have a 50% chance of getting it.
Yeah.
Maybe not, I'm guessing, but just based on looking at past results and what they've sold in the past.
Let's see.
This one looks like it might have had a trailer on it.
Yeah.
Might still have one.
No street side image.
A property like this one though, how much is that one opening bid?
1,600.
What's the value on it?
Well, they value it. The land at 16.9 and the building at 10,000.
Well, and if we are going to buy structures, I'm going to feel safer about buying a trailer than I am a single family home, because the trailer is going to get easier to take off of the property, versus a single family home.
Yeah, it's true. Well, and you're going to feel safer about it if there is a fair amount of land there that is, that is backing up the value.
Exactly.
It's kind of solidifying that, securing the property there.
Well, and the fact that it does have a trailer, means that there's probably power, water, some type of utility well within the property.
Yeah. Yeah, in fact, yeah.
But on this particular property, starting at 1,600, if you were to do a bid and we found out a little bit more about it, do a bid of, I guess it's 1,200, 1,600.
Yeah, there.
Maybe up to 2,500. Would I really have to? This one has a little bit.
Well, because there's
wrinkle because the improvements.
But one thing that's nice though is that we're pretty sure that there's not going to be liens against the property. Because we can just see that the only names we've got there are not names we'd have to be concerned about.
Yeah. Look at that one right below it for 349.
2,500.
See if it has use and value.
No, that's a junk lot.
I think there is some of those lots around the $400 to $500 mark in here though that you could put in bids.
Look at that, no value to it, but it says it's 4.8 acres. Well, let's see if it's usable. It looks pretty usable.
Yeah,
I wonder why they give it such a low value.
I don't know.
Let's see how they've got it zoned.
Unrecorded subway survey.
Agricultural vacant. So I guess maybe it's the agricultural.
Man, I don't care what they say its value. It's got to, if it is what it is.
Yeah.
It's got to be more valued more than that.
Yeah, we can also see down here that they have it. They've got the timber in different categories here, so we can see that they've got 1 acre of it. Is under this category here for 13. We've got 3.8 acres of it, which probably just different density of
something.
A forest. I don't know.
It's got a little trailer, little campsite or something.
Yeah. We can see that it sold in 1997. For 5,900.
Go back to the map real quick. There's probably not a street side.
No. Oh, you can see it
Not
there
a
though.
bad, it's not a bad rural lot though.
No, it's actually pretty nice. Well, and there's other properties there that you could probably get comps with. The value's got to be higher than what it shows.
Yeah.
But anyhow,
Well, that may be one where you'd pick it up. You pick it up for so low and the property taxes on it are nothing and have it rezoned.
yeah,
There's just mobile home.
yeah. There's a mobile home sitting on 4.24 acres.
That's the one right next to it.
Yeah, that is the one right next to it.
That would be the way to do it, is get both of them.
Yeah, if you could get both of these, so
What are they showing the land value on that one? On the mobile home?
not as high. That's what's, but higher though than $500. Let's see here. They show it at
7850.
yeah 7850 for the land value and 3,000 for for the building. And yeah, 1 acre of it set up as home site, and then they've got 3.2 with timber.
They must have a really low property tax rate that they rate on that timber.
Yeah.
I mean, there's big lots within this county that have a bunch of timber.
Oh, I mean, the property taxes are only $112 a year.
Yeah.
Not very much. I was gonna see if any of these other ones jumped out here.
4.3 acre lot for 1258. Oh, that one has a.
This one also has some kind of a mobile home on it. It's a 2011 photo.
Nice big lot.
But yeah, it would be a pretty good usable property. I want to see what this is. Some kind of commercial piece or something.
50 grand.
It's small. And it's vacant.
Oh, that's junk.
And that is junky junk. Like they can't believe
they gave it back.
Yeah, that's $25,000.
I'm sure they're probably right there in town where the prices are higher, but scroll out a little further. It's a nice area, but that's totally junk.
Yeah.
Too bad.
Oh, that's weird. I wonder
It's got a little square.
Yeah,
there.
that must be included in it somehow. That's weird. All right, so that big one there is junk. Some of these ones are probably nice homes. 2 acres about. Yeah, that one's a little nicer looking home. Oh, there's actually multiple homes. There's a second trailer there on the property. Well, that's weird. But that's the other address. But look at that. It's only halfway in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's got some odd stuff going on with
Is that the trailer though?
I think the trailer's
There's
right
a
here.
trailer right over to the right of the house.
Oh, actually, that could be the trailer too.
Or if that
one's 9618. So it's got a different address from it. Yeah, so if that's not, then it's the neighbor that's halfway on your property.
Click that one. Oh, no, I can't see it. Never mind. It was just a $400 lot one. I wanted to look at some of the.
Let's see, water utilities, 4 acres. Let's see, what is this? This one is a single family home. What year is that built? 1989.
Yeah, it's newer.
2012 image, but in 2012, and it looks like it had been abandoned for a while, for at least a year.
Look up the address, even though we're not looking at homes right now. I'm kind of interested to.
This is considered Van Buren, I suppose. Or
one thing I love about Arkansas, and it's part of the reason we, in the beginning, especially when they had over the counters, would get our students to buy there, is that they provide information about potential liens on the property. So we automatically know that there's some type of water issue through the city there that we're gonna wanna contact and find out more about before we even buy the property or bid on it or anything.
No street side images there, but we can at least see, kind of a farmhouse there.
It looks like it was, at least that photo was mowed.
And that's the lot. Oh, that's nice. That's a nice lot.
Look at Zillow and see what the value is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's helpful there with Arkansas because their assessed values are no use at all in Arkansas. So, they value it at about 158,000. That property there. Interesting, though, rent estimate of only 874.
Better off flipping it. Of course, I don't know if, we'll have to look at some of the other rents in the area.
See how accurate that is, really.
Look at that one right below it for 447.
$7,500.
Yeah, this is kind of the lot that I think that some of our students, if it's, well, not this one, but if it was usable and had street access to it, I think that those $7,000 to $15,000 land and some of the more expensive pieces of land, we'd have a chance of getting by sending in offers.
Yeah. Oh, here, this one might be, that has an IRS lien against. Let's see what it is. Building value of 451. What is this?
What's that?
Big,
like a roof or something.
It's huge. Let's see, the outbuildings and swimming pool, patio, jacuzzi. It looks like just a house. Oh wow, look at that.
Yeah. You see the pool.
That's a giant building there.
Huge outbuilding.
Yeah, I don't know if that's.
Because look at that, that's the house to the right of it.
Yeah.
And a garage.
Bizarre here. Let's grab the address.
I guess it could be the house.
It's interesting, that imaging until it kind of sits up here a bit. Let's see what it is.
It almost looks like you look down and see a river or something.
This is going to tell us. That's probably not even the road because I think it just fills out the grass. Oh, not that.
Oh, that's it right down there. Whoa, that's a big building.
Yeah, that's not the house.
No, that's a big outbuilding.
Yeah, that's
so I'm saying the house was over to the left of it.
Yeah, the house probably is right there. Yeah, that's some kind of a commercial setup there. Even if they have it listed as.
Look at the address on Zillow and see if they've tried selling it.
Listed as agricultural improved.
Well, if you list some of the land as agricultural, it's going to save property tax money for those people.
So they've got it listed here as
7,000 square feet, 7,800 square feet.
Yeah, and they've got it valued at 481,000.
Which is not coming up as commercial, it's coming up underneath,
Yeah, it's residential. That's weird. Now we can see here that it has, 2 different types of timber, 1 acre for the home site. And warranty deed there on.
2016.
Yeah, it looks like it's sold. So the house itself.
7,000 square feet for just the house.
That is the house then.
Yeah.
Or they're listing that as the house. That's crazy.
Now further and see what the.
Plumbing 4 full bathrooms.
No, see right there. Dwelling 4636 porch. Lower living area 3189. Huh.
Yeah, it must just be a big house.
Yeah.
Yeah, either way, it starts at 21,000. So the opening bid on it is a tiny fraction of its overall value. But there is,
I wouldn't be surprised.
Maverick Pallet. That's probably what it is. It's a pallet shop.
Right below it, look, there's another piece of land to it.
Yeah, this one's attached to it. I'm sure it's the same people. Let's see what this one is. This is. This is right next to it.
Oh, it's a whole different place.
Yeah, it's a totally different house. And yeah, that's completely separate. Oh, that's interesting. Those two. Yeah, I think this is a pallet. I'll bet that it's this Maverick pallet.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it kind of looks like a pallet facility. Yeah. Kind of commercial business here.
I think it'd definitely be worth it though.
Yeah, here's land valued at 25,000.
And when you only have to send in $100, you know, at least you don't have to, you don't have to worry about sending in the full money order.
Yeah, this is a great piece of land here. There's no real roads there, but it's still, oh yeah, Austin Road.
Yeah.
It's got this whole road right there, so it's nice and accessible. That's a property there.
In fact, that was property you could probably sell to the neighbors right there to get to their homes.
Yeah, it opens up at 1,600, and but is valued at 25. According to the county, we could probably look and find some comps on that. But even if that is correct, or if it's valued at 30,000.
Say it's valued at 30, and you even put in a bid of $3,000, that's going to be double the opening bid.
Yeah, you've got a chance to win that.
Yeah, you've got a chance of winning it.
Yeah. Yeah, at $3,000, you really could have a decent chance at winning this property and selling it. It'd be well worth going through quiet title, to get full value out of it.
Well, and they tend to be a little bit cheaper there to do quiet title than some of the other places, at least in the past.
Yeah, well, and the holding cost on it's only $278 a year in taxes, for that property. So, you have to see what that $2,800 building is. But with that amount, you could hang on to the property.
Let's scroll down a little further. It might tell us right there. I almost think it's like, oh, there's some mobile home, pole shed, fence, chain link.
Oh yeah.
Outbuilding, frame.
Yeah, I think a $3,000 bid could potentially.
There's one at 9 acres.
Yeah, this one's valued at 46,000. So this one's actually, great example here for what class we call this, class 3. In the $20,000 to $50,000 range. Vacant. What is this?
Look, but made the picture look bigger.
Are those stalls?
I can't tell. It looks like
car wash
it is.
Stalls, maybe. Warehouse. It was built in 1970. It looks like it needs to be torn down. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's got a big river.
Yeah, Frog Bayou.
See if there's a street view. Take it over to the front of it.
No.
There's not on that big road.
Oh, maybe there was. It just didn't light up for me, I guess. Oh yeah. Okay, so here's the road that that goes along the one side of the property, and the house, the other road has got to be up here.
I think it's a little. Yeah, I think it's up here further because it's by the river.
Right there.
It's got to be by the river or the bayou or whatever.
Yeah. Well, you can see it's right here. There's an overpass right here for it. So this is the other turnoff that we saw. That's the building right there. I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's definitely the turnoff right there.
Yeah, and then this is the water, that it backs up against.
Keep going a little. We'll see the bridge. And so you can see the building there.
Yeah, so it basically just kind of backs up, against that, the 9.4 acres.
Building's kind of interesting.
Yeah, so they've got it valued here, yeah, $3,700 value there for the building. Most of it though is in the land. So $47,000 and it opens up at 4,000. So, it's starting out at about 10 cents on the dollar. And
you bid 15 or 20,
yeah,
you bid $8,000 on it, $7,000, you'd probably have a good chance.
yeah. Yeah, at $8,000, you probably would have a decent chance at getting that property or winning it.
Look at that one with the huge.
Yeah, that's a long old legal description.
Oh, are we almost out of time?
Yeah. Oh, this one's got a $100,000 building to it. This is commercial improved. Oh, Aikido was the name of the business, but they actually own it.
Isn't Aikido, isn't that a karate type?
Yeah, I think so.
I think it's a karate type martial art. Yeah, you go kicking out the karate studio. Gonna have like a Karate Kid type fight going on.
Yeah, that is it. Oh, there's other properties here. These lists are all pretty big for each one of the counties that are holding these sales. And again, these will be live sales. So, you're going to be limited to the competition that's there in person. Anybody else that sends a.
Click on that one, 3.22
oh, that
acres.
was 10 acres right there.
Oh, yeah, right below it.
$1,300.
That one's got a home on it or something.
Yeah, they give the land 25,000 value, 15,000 for.
What is that?
That's a side of a mobile home.
Oh, I thought it was a circular type thing, like a.
Oh, that's crazy. There's 2 mobile homes on it.
Man, they each have their own address.
Yeah. Yeah, 10 acres,
Subdivide that thing.
Yeah, it's really not too much.
Well, we better get going.
Department of Finance Administration.
Well, hopefully that'll give you guys at least a better idea of kind of what we're looking at as we're searching these type of properties, what we think we can bid on them. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to give us a call, give your coach a call us here. If you need a question about evaluating that, go ahead. We're more than happy to look over any of those with you.
Yeah, but we will start having auctions coming up here. I mean, really, even just beginning of March in Arkansas, we've got these, but that's just one of the places that's starting the auctions at, and there are a lot more from there.
Yeah, definitely a lot of opportunity coming up. So let us know if you guys have any questions, and let's get registered for some of these online auctions. Let's send in some bids. Let's get some property coming in.
Yeah. Hey, thanks guys. We will see you again here next week.
Yeah, appreciate it.